So hi everyone and welcome. This is the retrospective of the week 3 of the PIRL Conference for 2020. My name is Jim Fister. I'm an independent contractor for SNIA and I run my own company called The Decision Place. With me is, introduce yourself, Steve.
I'm Steve Swanson. I'm a professor at the University of California in San Diego. I run the Non-Volatile Systems Lab, and Jim and I are the co-organizers of the PIRL Conference.
Yeah, so this was a fun wrap up. So we did PIRL for 3 weeks in October of 2020. We're all working on the COVID space, and so we had to turn this into a virtual conference. I think we had a really exciting slate. So for those of you that weren't at the conference, we actually would do some pre-recorded talks every week and a panel of those talks. And we had 3 pre-recorded talks and 3 panelists for the final week. And then we did 2 keynotes. So why don't we talk about the pre-recorded talks first? So we had a series of graduate students that were talking about research projects, but these were research projects that were actually pretty close to implementation. And I thought we had some pretty interesting ones. So I'm trying to remember all of them. So we first had David Axon, and he was doing cache line logging, I believe, right?
Yeah, so he had an update from a paper that they published a while ago about a kind of clever logging scheme that takes advantage of the fact that cache line writes are usually atomic, or at least fast, for persistent memory. And what I thought was interesting about this work was that they sort of highlighted some of the changes they had to make when the real hardware arrived. So the original work was on kind of using DRAM as persistent memory, and now with Intel, things are a little different, and so their approach had to change a little bit. So I love that kind of engineering stuff, so I thought it was a great talk.
Yeah, and it fits really well with the PIRL concept. What we wanted to do with PIRL is we wanted to talk about, well, when you start doing programming, what's easy and what's hard. And I think he did actually a very thoughtful coverage of, again, how do I recover now that I actually have the hardware? And it's a good example for any programmer to really go through the methodological steps to try and figure out how to get their programs adapted. So I thought that was really neat. Then we had Hanshan Huang from your neck of the woods, UCSD, and she was doing, I thought, a pretty unique approach. She was focusing on using AI to actually scan programs and determine how to insert persistent memory. I thought that was a very neat approach, and obviously it's going to need a little bit of work, but I think we were seeing some pretty interesting results from that. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, you can apply machine learning to anything, it seems, and so it's impressive and exciting to see this approach to building better tools, to finding bugs, preventing bugs. That's a critical question for persistent memory, and so I think we need all the tools that we can possibly bring to bear on it.
Well, just remember, even with AI, you still do need professors. So yeah, I think you're safe for a little bit. Me, maybe not so much. I think the AI can run the hackathon programs, no problem. And then we also had Zhongyu Chen, and he had, I thought, a really interesting presentation. And so what was he focused on, and what really struck out at you?
Yeah, so this was one in a kind of long series of papers that's come out of the research community about building efficient hash tables and other kind of indexed data structures for persistent memory. Their focus a lot was on getting rid of locks to maximize concurrency, which is obviously very critical. And they have some really nice performance results. So yeah, it was great to see the latest iteration on this kind of community-wide refinement of interesting data structures.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, it certainly attracted the attention of the PMDK team. They asked him at one point in the presentation if he'd be willing to contribute some of that to open source. So I think that shows that, again, a lot of research can very easily lead into practical applications. This PIRL was a little bit of a blend of taking some of the research and applying it, like we were talking, and then also some of the industry leaders really talking about how they implemented. And that really goes to the first keynote that we had. We had Jashi from Oracle, who was talking about her team's work with Exadata. We'd seen a variant of the Exadata pitch at the first PIRL. This was an update as to where that was going, and Jia is always an engaging speaker. I thought it was a fantastic discussion of all the steps that they put in place to implement effectively their Exadata appliance using persistent memory. So it was really focused on practical application, taking it all the way out to the marketplace, and that's always really neat to see. So what struck you about it?
Yeah, I thought this was a real highlight of the whole conference for me. I think it, she went through and showed how they integrated both persistent memory and RDMA into the Exadata appliance, and they hit all the bases, right? They were dealing with weird idiosyncrasies of persistent memory, wrestling with the kind of more Amdahl's law problem of, how do you expose the very, very low latency of this memory technology in a system that was built for, orders of magnitude slower SSDs or hard drives, and really how they had to make changes everywhere, and how they managed to tie it all together across both the storage and the networking stack.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna assign this video as required viewing for my graduate storage class and as I teach in the future.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, I'd always said when I was first introduced to persistent memory, back in my planning and strategy days at Intel, I said, "Wow, imagine the corner cases that this thing is going to create." And I think Oracle really went through all of those and found ways around them. So again, for people who want to go implement persistent memory, this is required viewing. Let's not make it just college students. Let's make it all the professionals, and really see a good opportunity to understand, again, a really good set of methodologies for implementing persistent memory. And then our last keynote, I actually, I thought both the keynotes were fantastic this week. Our last keynote was Dieter Kasper, and he's from Fujitsu, and he's actually on the customer-facing side. So he had a very, I thought, thoughtful and detailed presentation on what it's like to look at persistent memory, how it's like to implement it in systems, and what customers are really going to be looking for in order to start using it, in the wild, so to speak. And so I thought it was very thoughtful, but I thought it had a lot of good advice for all of us as attendees to PIRL on these are the things that you really need to do to make persistent memory interesting to the real customer. That was what I got out of it. What did you get out of it?
Yeah, I would echo all of that. I think, one of the challenges that, I have in academia is trying to understand, like, what are the real world challenges that are going to crop up. And so we had two really great keynotes that really kind of hit on that pretty directly. And yeah, I enjoyed the keynote a great deal. I think it's going to help shape the work that we're doing in my lab, and also how we think about how persistent memory will make its way further out into the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the PIRL Conference, as we said, this year it was a virtual conference. I certainly want to thank Connect Central Oregon for stepping in and helping us run the event at the virtual conference, and also help us shoot these videos. Here we are in the OSU Cascades building, shooting the video, and so PIRL was effectively a co-production of SNIA and the Non-Volatile Systems Lab that Steve runs. I think it looks really good, and I'm excited. What are your thoughts for next year's PIRL? I know we want to do a 2021. What are you thinking? I know we're still not real far away from the last one, but what would you like to see new and different in the next PIRL?
Well, I would love for it to be in person again, or maybe have some kind of hybrid flavor. We've been talking about some of that. Mm-hmm. We're still trying to figure out a timeline. There's question of whether we can sneak it in person late in the year, if we should have it online earlier again. So we're all gonna figure that out. I think there's more and more people working on persistent memory. It's making its way into more and more applications, and so I'm excited to see kind of more of the same, more great talks about people using persistent memory in real systems in the real world, and what it takes to make all that go.
Yeah, it's a relatively cold day here in Central Oregon, so I really hope that PIRL is live next year too, so that I can come down to San Diego and sit on the beach again, and during the breaks, of course, and hear what everyone has to say. So for those of you that are interested in seeing the PIRL content, it's at the PIRL site, which is PIRL, PIRL.nvsl.io. Again, that's PIRL.nvsl.io. You can, the video should be, as you're viewing this video, the video should be available for you to view. free of charge. The presentations are also with those. And we encourage you to contact us through the PIRL site and give us suggestions for what we need to do for future conferences, as well as what you'd like to see in between conferences. Maybe we'll do a little mini conference if we can find the time and the energy. So, Steve, I thought it was a good year for PIRL, even in these trying times. Hope to see you face-to-face rather than on the screen sometime soon. And hope everybody has a good 2020 and an even better 2021.